what are we trying to do? Actually, as civil society activists, we are looking at small spaces that are available within this, looking at little opportunities, looking to support the most vulnerable groups within this scenario, and start the work from there. So if you really take high levels of militarization and the presence of military personnel in the north and east, out of the 19 divisions of the Sri Lankan Army, 17 are located in the north and east. In addition to the Air Force and the Navy, naval bases there. So looking at that, we have other localized specific problems, such as lack of protection for women, trafficking of women, the problem of the community's participation in the rehabilitation and reconstruction processes, the very slow nature of reconstruction processes of the government, and the communities being unable to do anything about it. So these are some of the areas that we have identified and we have started to work on it. And we have taken two instruments that we feel we could use under the current circumstances. One is the UNSCR 1325, using that in terms of particularly protection and participation of the women, and then using the Lessons Learned Reconciliation Commission's recommendations, which is in the final analysis, even though the government disowns it, it is a government-instituted commission and it is their own process. So, taking that up. So, under the UNSCR, on the protection side, we actually came upon a novel way of addressing the protection issues of women, in especially the north and east area, by forming what we call the Women's Police Forums. So because the military is the overarching authority there, we wanted to put a countervailing force in that. So the police already had a mechanism called community policing, where they formed the communities into groups that would collaborate and cooperate with the police in solving crime and other problems in the community. But there was also a danger that these community groups were really information centers for the police to monitor. But we changed it slightly, that forum, linked with the police system, and got the women to form what they call Women's Police Forums, which met every 2 months or 3 months and thrashed out all the issues of violence against women, domestic violence, child abuse, which has increased tremendously in our areas. So, to sort out those issues. This has been quite successful in that the police has, because there is already under the SADO provision, there is a women and children desk in every police station. So we were able to use it to the advantage of the women. Then another area that we felt that women's participation was necessary was in the mediation courts. Because as Sarah mentioned, lots of conflicts have arisen regarding land and political conflicts. There are the henchmen of the government. Then there are also the former armed groups that are also part of the government and outside the government. So the mediation boards are a potentially good forums for communities to come up and sort out their problems. So when we looked at some of the mediation boards in the East and we assessed the participation of women, it was not more than 6%. And even if when they participated, we felt that they were not given their due role. So they were just marking time. They were, just for the sake of being a member of the mediation board, but not given any responsibility. So we started training women, picking them from the grassroots community-based organizations and training them and linking them with the Ministry of Justice, which then went ahead to appoint them to the mediation boards as and when they were having the interview process. So that was the second way in which we were able to bring the women into peace building or reconciliation processes. Then thirdly, we were really, there was another very fine opportunity to get women into local governance. So getting women into local authorities, both as councillors, but also as members of the various statutory advisory bodies of the local councils. And this particular strategy has really paid off. And we have now had women's organizations at the village level participating in the decision-making processes of the local authorities and really deciding the little reconstruction projects that are being carried out at that level. So that is a participation. Then fourthly, another thing that we discovered was now, especially in the north, there is a lot of restriction on civil society organizations' movements, and the government is quite touchy about and sensitive that any stories that can come out of the north can be, construed against them, especially in the face of the impending war crimes, accusations and accountability demands. And so meeting with groups there, we can't have a meeting more than 3-4 people in a place. If you have, the military immediately visits your meeting and they want to know, who's here, why, and what's being discussed and so on. Every meeting we have in the north, there is a military personnel present, a training program or anything. So in this, when we visited the women, they actually told us what they had in their hearts, saying, we really suffered in this war. It was a very cruel war, but we have still not told people of our stories. And so we then started last year an oral histories project, which we recently had an exhibition of talking to women, their narratives of the war, what they experienced, and their hopes for the future. Actually, to bring out the resilience of these women, despite going through such trauma, they have come back to save their families, to get ahead in this life. So this is also another ongoing project that we have started in terms of getting women's voices heard. So that's as far as our interventions related to 1325. Then we also work the other instrument, that is the LLRC. So under the LLRC, we have taken maybe we can say 3 issues that are of significance to the communities that we work with. First one is the land issue. And Sarah explained very well on what was happening with the militarization and the land grab. But that's not the only story. There is another part to it, which I think is happening a lot in the East. It is that because it's a very overtly Sinhala Buddhist state, so Sinhala citizens also have and enjoy and exercise a lot of power and authority related to that. So there is a lot of encroachments of land. If there are mixed villages, Sinhala village, Tamil village or Sinhala Muslim village, then there is an encroachment of land, and forced acquisition. And it is normally done under the leadership of a Buddhist monk. And then there are stories of Buddhist heritage that's, evolved in that. And then there is a process in which it is done. First there is a Buddhist temple that's established, and then, all the associated settlements are then done. So what we are trying to do is raise awareness of the communities on their legal entitlements and to explain the land law. So we conduct legal clinics. We have done that in the whole of the Eastern Province, and it has really been very successful in that these communities, every single one of them, they have linked with the Eastern Provincial Land Commissioner, and they have filed cases, and also we are trying to get the opposition parties involved in actually advocating on their behalf. So that's number one. The second one is on the implementation of the language policy, because that is another what I would call the itch that created the conflict. It's on the use of the Tamil language, which was denied, and then the conflict began. So in the implementation of the language policy, we support the communities into lobbying with local government administrations, the local hospitals, and everybody, into using language, Tamil language, sending letters in Tamil, as well as having a reasonable facility of translations. So, especially in Puttlam district, the women's groups actually have gained a lot of mileage in this. They have changed bus boards, they have got Tamil-speaking medical officers in the base hospital, they have insisted on and obtained translations in public meetings in the local DS Divisional Secretary's office. So we want to actually support the communities into doing that. Then another group that has come into this, that is also under the LLRC, because the LLRC has very comprehensively dealt with some of these issues, like the land. They have asked that the National Land Commission has to be instituted. It's part of our constitution for 20 years, I think, more than that. But it has never been instituted. So our advocacy point is, demanding that a National Land Commission should be appointed. And likewise, another group that has been highlighted under the LLRC report has been the families of the disappeared. We had a very unorthodox war, so there were white vans abducting people, people were just taken in the night, and there are hundreds and hundreds of people who have disappeared like that, and nothing has been heard since. And those families are demanding justice. And so we are working with them, supporting their actions. And right now what they have come up with is a very basic request. They are very hurt that the government, both the military and the political leadership, have